Hello and welcome to Teachings in Education, Lesson Planning. What components are required in lesson planning? A teacher's lesson plan should include, at the very least, these 12 different components. The first necessary component is the title. When naming your lesson plans, begin with the course subject, grade level, and your name. The title should be clearly presented somewhere at the top of the lesson plan. It should be easy for administrators to recognize whose lesson plan it is. Next up, the date, which is more important than you actually think. Teachers will not argue that one of the most common mistakes are using old lesson plans and forgetting to change the date. It happens to me all the time. When teachers get caught using older dates, it indicates they are not actually planning their lesson. The third component is the lesson objective. Each lesson should have a learning goal. The goal should be characterized as SMART, which means it's specific, measurable, achievable, results-focused, and time-bound. These learning goals should be posted somewhere in the class for both students and administrators to view. The next component is the standards, which is quite an important component. Lesson plans must be tied to at least one state standard. Teaching to the state standards is important because your students will eventually take standardized tests. And if you haven't covered your standards, you eventually set your students up for failure. Moving on to the fifth component, which is the actual plan for the lesson. Each lesson should have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. You should also write in the sequence of activities and events in your lesson. For example, maybe your plan begins with an anticipatory set, then a lecture, then an activity, and finishes up with an assessment. The sixth component of lesson planning is the assessment. Remember, each lesson objective with its aligned standard must be assessed for student comprehension and understanding. Now, when I say assessment, that can mean something as simple as a quick formative assessment, such as an exit ticket, or perhaps a unit assessment. The next component has been surrounded by some debate lately: homework. Let me be the first to say that homework is absolutely necessary. Add specific pages and problems for homework assignments. You know, kids spending time doing their homework isn't a bad thing. You should be assigning homework. The next part of lesson planning is to add some cross-curriculum standards. English language arts and other subject standards should be included when touched upon in a lesson. Especially look to incorporate English language arts. Think about a physics lesson on quantum mechanics and Albert Einstein. That lesson could have both history and science standards. The next component is differentiation, which great teachers actually do. You can include differentiation of instruction through content, process, and product. Also, differentiate for students with disabilities and ELL students as well. It should be noted that differentiation of instruction takes a lot of time and effort as well as planning. The 10th component is technology. Add technology skills and practices into your lesson plan if possible. Now, not all lessons you give will incorporate technology. Nevertheless, as teachers, we must prepare students for the technological world. The next component should be included is the written component. Remember, writing is a transferable skill that students need for most disciplines and need as career professionals. Even if you're teaching math, have your students write out steps to solving a problem. Place open-ended questions in your assessments. And now, we finally made it to the last component: career skills and career-ready practices. All teachers should try to instill career-ready practices that will prepare their students for careers later on in life. Education is ultimately the responsibility for preparing students for life outside of school. And click the link below for a sample of this lesson plan.